Hey friends, welcome to the forging shop. I have a small fire going. I've been forging all morning already. I'm making strikers for Flint steel, and I thought that I would take some time and just expose what my secret is to making great strikers for Flint steel. Just a quick overview. When I first started, I did what most everyone else did, get some mild steel, square stock, forge it out, shape it, and then bring it up to temperature, and then cooking it with casing it. And then quenching that in cold, cold, cold ice water. Now if you scroll back on this channel, you'll see where I did a hammer for an 1861 cap and ball revolver. I had to re-harden that hammer, and you'll see I actually used casonite to do that. Well, over the years my techniques obviously have improved, and I've learned to do things a lot better. And as of right now, my preferred material is this: garage door springs. Now these can very easily be acquired if you just go to a garage door. People that install garage doors, often enough these springs break. And I have some smaller sizes right here. And they're very simple to cut. I just use a 4-inch grinder with an 1/8-inch thick blade, and I just cut them off. Now, the secret is not so much in the forging. Let me just get around here real quick and show you. I have a pile of strikers ready to be hardened, and they're actually made from this size garage door spring. And as you can see, some material has to be removed off of this size spring, just simply because that's the jig that I use to getting most of these strikers somewhat uniform in size. When I do my snake strikers, my sizing jig is actually on the size of my forge. Let me pan around and show you right there. So when I do my snake strikers, that's how I get the curl where your hand fits, and that's the size that I actually use. Let me get my fire going here, because I'm working on heating up a piece of metal to show exactly what I do. Because what I've learned over the years, that's my quenching water. Now, there are a lot of blacksmiths out there that make strikers and say they use oil. I only quench in oil. Well, over 30 years, I've tried all kinds of oil at all kinds of temperatures, and I can never get a striker to strike quenching in oil. So I use water, but there is a technique to this. Just simply because I'm already starting out with a really good spring steel. On occasion, when I need different types of strikers, I'll use leaf springs off of cars, and I cut them down to a size that I actually need and then draw them out. But even when I do harden this steel, I use the same technique. So let me get everything repositioned here, and I'm going to show you my technique. Hold on. Okay, so this is my technique. This is what I do. I take a chunk of metal, get it red hot, then I will take and I will submerge that in my container of water and warm up the water. Kind of hard to do holding the camera at the same time. But this has been my secret for at least 3 decades. Well, once I actually started learning to do this, and I actually did it. I actually learned this just by sheer coincidence. I was making a bunch of strikers one day, and I noticed as the water got warmer from quenching so many strikers that the strikers actually started striking better. So let me get repositioned here. I'm going to put a striker into the forge, and I'll show you at what color range I actually start quenching the striker. Yeah, it's good and warm. And that's how I do it. I actually warm up my water. So let me get a striker into the forge, and at that critical time, we'll pull it out and I'll show you the color range that I quench this with. So once I get my strikers to the shape that I want them, I let them completely cool because I want the metal to kind of like normalize. And then when I put them in my forge, I only put the surface that I'm going to harden. I don't need to color or heat up the entire striker. I just need to heat up the surface that I'm actually going to be hardening. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just let that heat up to the color range I want, and I'm going to reposition the camera over that can of warm water. Okay, as you can tell, that's pretty hot right now, so I'm going to let that draw back to where it's just a dull orange. Okay, now I know in the camera right now it's actually looking brighter than it actually is than what I have right here. So I'm at that point now, and when I quench it, I only quench about half of the striker. Now remember, the water's already warm, so for me, these do not have to be yellow hot. I just go to a dull orange, and I only quench about half of it, and then I just let it draw back a little bit till the water evaporates off the striker, and then I'll quench it just a little bit more and let it draw back, and then I'll go a little deeper with it to start getting the curve right in through here. But there again, I let it draw back because I don't want to over harden the entire thing. I only need the striking surface hardened. Okay, now I'm going to stir it, obviously, let it cool down a little bit, and then what I always do is I take the striker and then I hit it 3 or 4 times on the horn on my anvil. So let me cross through the camera and you'll hear it ring out. The reason I do that is because if it's going to break, I want it to break here. Now, as it stands, it will not draw steel because now the bottom side of it needs to be polished, and I will do that on my sander. So you can see that sanding it polishes the striking edge of the striker. So let me get a piece of flint and we'll see how well we did. And generally, because of my experience, I can tell that this is hardened and tempered properly, if you want to use the word tempered. But it is hardened properly because I can tell just by the sparks that are coming off the sandpaper, you know, what I'm looking to achieve, and that just comes through experience. So here's a piece of flint, and let's see how we did. Get a good sharp edge. You can see the sparks. Let me back away a little bit. One of the reasons why I prefer to make my strikers out of round stock is because when you go to strike flint, you have just the curvature of the round stock striking the flint, which gives you less surface to drag, and in my opinion it does create a hotter spark. Now some people may disagree with that, but by comparison, just imagine this 3/8 square stock is already forged into a striker. Well, you've actually got 3/8 of a flat surface striking the flint, or vice versa, which means you're going to create more drag as you're striking the flint as opposed to something round. And that's been another one of my secrets over the years. So I'm going to get repositioned. I'm going to get some char cloth, and I'll just do a real quick demonstration because this was the last striker that I actually made, and the water was getting hotter and hotter and hotter because I did about 22 of them this morning. So let me get repositioned, and we'll test it on some char cloth. Now I just have a piece of flint flake in my hand. I prefer to put my char cloth, or typically I use string char, but the whole idea, the whole technique is to get some of the sparks to fall on top of the char cloth, and it's your char cloth that keeps the spark alive. And if you get lucky enough, you'll get this the first time around. If not, it'll just take a few strikes of flint and steel for that char cloth to catch a spark. And I did it the first time. Let me get just a little bit closer to the camera, and you'll be able to see that spark right there. I'm going to blow a little bit more life into it. You can see. And at this point, that spark's not going to go out. It's just going to continue to work its way through all that char cloth. And obviously, by the time you get ready to strike flint and steel, you've already got all of the makings for a fire, your wood or your, whatever it is that you're going to start on fire. So anyhow, friends, thanks for indulging me. I hope that you will give this video a like and a thumbs up, and I hope that you will share it with your bestest of buds. Have a wonderful week, guys. Bye.